Few moments in sports can match the intensity of playoff hockey. When the Stanley Cup is on the line, every shot, save, and whistle carries immense weight. Throughout NHL history, certain playoff goals stand out not just for their importance, but for the controversy they sparked. These are the moments that left fans screaming at their televisions, players arguing with officials, and coaches demanding explanations. The margin between victory and defeat in the NHL playoffs is razor thin, and sometimes a single controversial call can alter championship dreams and change hockey history forever. What makes a goal truly controversial? Sometimes it's a missed penalty that should have stopped play before the puck found the net. Other times, it's a questionable interpretation of rules that leaves one team celebrating while the other fumes in disbelief. In the era before today's advanced replay technology, many controversial goals stem from officials simply not having the perfect angle to make the right call. Even in modern times, with multiple camera angles and video review, controversy persists when rules are applied in ways that leave room for debate. These disputed goals often lead to rule changes and new officiating standards, but they can never erase the impact they had on teams and fans who witnessed them. As we count down the 10 most controversial playoff goals in NHL history, we'll revisit moments that changed series outcomes, alter careers, and in some cases, determined who would lift the Stanley Cup. From phantom offside to disputed crease violations, from kick pucks to uncalled high sticks, these goals represent the fine line between glory and heartbreak in hockey's most pressure-filled moments. Some happened decades ago but still spark heated debates among hockey historians, while others occurred in recent memory and continue to influence how today's game is officiated. Each goal tells a story not just of controversial calls, but of the human element that makes sports so unpredictable and captivating. Number 10. Brett Hull's foot in the crease Cup winner, 1999. The stage was set for drama in Buffalo on June 19, 1999. The Sabres and Dallas Stars were locked in a tense Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final, with Buffalo fighting to extend the series to a decisive 7-game. The scoreless battle stretched past regulation, through one overtime period, then another, and into a third. Players on both teams were exhausted, having battled for over 114 minutes of hockey. The stakes couldn't have been higher. Dallas was one goal away from claiming the franchise's first Stanley Cup, while Buffalo needed just one goal to force Game 7 on home ice. At 14:51 of the third overtime period, Brett Hull changed hockey history forever. After Dominik Hasek made an initial save on Hull's shot, the puck trickled into the crease. Hull followed his own rebound, and with his left skate clearly in the blue paint of the crease, he fired a puck past Hasek and into the net. Immediately, Dallas players poured onto the ice in celebration, while the Sabres protested vigorously to the officials. At issue was the NHL's controversial foot in the crease rule, which at that time stated that no goal could be scored if an offensive player had a skate in the goaltender's crease unless he had possession of the puck before entering the crease. Replays clearly showed Hull's skate in the crease before he gained possession of the rebound. What made this goal especially controversial was the inconsistent application of the rule throughout that season and the NHL's midnight explanation. All year long, goals had been disallowed for the slightest crease violations, often requiring lengthy video reviews. Yet on hockey's biggest stage, the officials made no review of Hull's goal, and NHL officials later claimed that Hull maintained possession throughout the play, an interpretation that seemed to contradict how the rule had been enforced all season. To this day, Buffalo fans refer to it simply as no goal, and the controversy was so significant that the NHL eliminated the foot in the crease rule the following season. The Stars celebrated their championship, but for Sabres fans and hockey purists, Hull's goal remains one of the most controversial cup-winning goals in NHL history. Number 9. Artur's hand pass goal, 1994. The 1994 NHL playoffs marked a significant moment for the young San Jose Sharks franchise. Just 3 years into their existence, the Sharks had shocked the hockey world by upsetting the top-seeded Detroit Red Wings in the first round. Now facing the Toronto Maple Leafs in the conference semifinals, the underdog Sharks were looking to continue their Cinderella run. Game 4 of the series would produce one of the most hotly debated goals of that playoff year, one that still sparks arguments among longtime fans of both teams. Late in the game, with the score tied, Sharks forward Johan Garpenlov fired a shot toward Toronto's net. The puck appeared to deflect off teammate Sergei Makarov's glove before finding its way past Maple Leafs goaltender Felix Potvin and into the net. The Sharks celebrated what they believed was the go-ahead goal, but the Maple Leafs immediately protested, arguing that Makarov had illegally directed the puck with his hand. The officials huddled to discuss the play, but without the benefit of today's comprehensive video review system, they allowed the goal to stand. The Sharks would hold on to win a game and take a crucial 3-1 series lead. What made this goal so controversial was not just a disputed hand pass, but how it affected the competitive balance of the series. Toronto coaches and players were furious, believing they had clear evidence of illegal play. The controversy overshadowed what had been an excellent performance by Sharks goaltender Artur Zerb. Though Toronto would win the next 2 games to force a Game 7, the momentum from that controversial goal helped propel the Sharks to an eventual series victory, allowing the third-year expansion team to advance to the conference finals. For Maple Leafs fans, the missed hand pass call represented a pivotal moment that potentially cost them a deeper playoff run in a year when their championship drought had already reached 27 years. Number 8, Martin Gelinas' Phantom Goal, 2004. The 2004 Stanley Cup Final between the Calgary Flames and Tampa Bay Lightning provided one of the most agonizing what-if moments in playoff history. With the series tied at 3 games apiece, Game 6 in Calgary became the backdrop for a controversy that Flames fans still discuss with bitter disappointment. Late in the third period with the score tied, Flames forward Martin Gelinas found himself in perfect position as a rebound bounced to his stick just inches from the Lightning goal line. Gelinas quickly redirected the puck toward the open net, and many Flames fans erupted as they believed the puck had crossed the line before Lightning goaltender Nikolai Kbibulin's pad swept it away. However, the on-ice officials made no signal for a goal, and play continued without stoppage. The limited camera angles available at that time made it difficult to definitively determine whether the puck had fully crossed the goal line. One angle appeared to show the puck over the line, while another suggested it might have been stopped by Kbibulin's pad just before it completely crossed over. Without conclusive evidence to overrule the on-ice non-call, the potential series-changing goal was disallowed. The consequences couldn't have been more significant. The game eventually went to overtime where the Lightning scored to force a decisive Game 7 back in Tampa, which they won to claim the Stanley Cup. For Calgary, a franchise that hadn't won the Cup since 1989, the disallowed goal represented a crushing missed opportunity. The controversy sparked discussions about improving goal line technology in the NHL, eventually leading to enhanced camera systems and the introduction of more comprehensive video review procedures. For Flames fans, though, these improvements came too late. The moment when they might have won the Stanley Cup had slipped away in a blur of disputed pixels on grainy video replay. Number 7, Philadelphia Flyers Phantom Offside, 1980. The 1980 Stanley Cup Final between the Philadelphia Flyers and the New York Islanders featured a pivotal moment that will become one of the most disputed calls in playoff history. The Flyers, led by Captain Bobby Clarke, were looking to recapture Stanley Cup glory after their Broad Street Bullies championships of 1974 and 1975. The Islanders, meanwhile, were hungry for their first cup after several disappointing playoff exits in previous years. Game 6 at Nassau Coliseum would produce a moment of controversy that many believe altered the course of hockey history. With the game tied and tension mounting in the first period, Islanders forward Dwayne Sutter carried the puck into the Flyers zone on what appeared to be an offside play. The Flyers bench erupted, pointing frantically as replays would later confirm that Sutter had indeed crossed the blue line before the puck. The linesman, positioned on the opposite side of the ice, kept his whistle silent. Seconds later, the puck found its way to Islanders defenseman Dennis Potvin, who fired a shot past Flyers goaltender Pete Peters. The goal stood despite furious protests from Philadelphia players and coach Pat Quinn, giving the Islanders a lead they would not relinquish. The Islanders went on to win the game 5-4 in overtime, clinching their first Stanley Cup and launching a dynasty that would produce 4 consecutive championships. For the Flyers, who had battled through a 35-game unbeaten streak that season, the missed offside call represented a crushing blow. While it's impossible to know how the game and series might have unfolded without that controversial goal, Flyers fans still point to this moment as one that potentially denied their team another championship. The incident highlighted the human element of officiating and the significant impact that split-second decisions can have on determining who hoists the Stanley Cup. Number 6, Joel Otto's kicking goal, 1989. The 1989 Smythe Division Finals between the Calgary Flames and Vancouver Canucks culminated in one of the most controversial finishes in playoff history. Game 7 of the Olympic Saddledome in Calgary had all the drama hockey fans could ask for: bitter rivals, a tied score, and overtime tension with a trip to the conference finals on the line. The Flames, who had finished the regular season with the NHL's best record, were heavily favored but found themselves in a life-or-death struggle against the underdog Canucks. Just over 5 minutes into overtime, Flames center Joel Otto positioned himself in front of Vancouver goaltender Kirk McLean as teammate Al MacInnis fired a shot from point. The puck deflected toward Otto, who was tangled with Canucks defenseman Paul Reinhart. In the ensuing scramble, the puck caromed off Otto's skate and into the net. The Flames players immediately raised their arms in celebration, but the Canucks protested vehemently, arguing that Otto had deliberately kicked the puck into the net, a violation of NHL rules. The officials briefly conferred but allowed the goal to stand, ending the game and the series. Replays showed the puck clearly deflecting off Otto's skate, but the crucial question of intent, whether he deliberately directed it or it simply bounced off him, remained ambiguous even with video evidence. The controversy of this goal took on greater significance as the Flames went on to defeat the Chicago Blackhawks in the conference finals and then the Montreal Canadiens to win a franchise's first and only Stanley Cup. For Canucks fans, the Otto goal represents a painful, what might have been moment, while for the Flames, it was a fortunate bounce that helped propel them to championship glory. The incident highlighted the difficulty officials face in judging intent on deflected pucks before the era of comprehensive video review and influenced later rule clarifications regarding pucks directed into the net by skates. Number 5. Wayne Gretzky high stick non-call, 1993. The 1993 Campbell Conference Finals between the Los Angeles Kings and Toronto Maple Leafs featured a pivotal moment in Game 6 that continues to haunt Toronto fans decades later. The Kings, led by Wayne Gretzky, were fighting to force a Game 7, while the Maple Leafs were one win away from their first Stanley Cup final appearance since 1967. With the game tied in overtime and the series hanging in the balance, a single controversial non-call would dramatically alter the trajectory of both franchises. Midway through overtime, Gretzky clipped Maple Leafs forward Doug Gilmour with a high stick, drawing blood. Under the rules at that time, this should have resulted in a 5-minute major penalty and a game misconduct for Gretzky, effectively removing the Great One from the game. However, referee Kerry Fraser and his officiating crew somehow missed the infraction despite Gilmour's visible injury. The Toronto crowd erupted in disbelief as their bleeding star pleaded his case to the officials. Just moments later, in a twist that made the non-call even more painful for Maple Leafs fans, Gretzky himself scored a game-winning goal to force Game 7 back in Toronto. The controversy reached its devastating conclusion when Gretzky, who should have been ejected in Game 6, went on to dominate Game 7 with a hat trick, sending the Kings to the Stanley Cup final and ending Toronto's championship hopes. For Maple Leafs fans, this missed call represents perhaps the most agonizing what-if in franchise history. The incident has been discussed, debated, and lamented for 3 decades, with many believing it cost the team their best chance at ending a Stanley Cup drought that still continues today. Even referee Kerry Fraser later acknowledged a missed call in his autobiography, making this non-call and subsequent goal one of the most significant officiating controversies in NHL playoff history. Number 4. Colorado Avalanche's offside goal 2020. The 2020 Stanley Cup playoffs, held in the Edmonton and Toronto bubbles due to the COVID-19 pandemic, produced its own share of controversy despite the advances in video review technology. In the second-round series between the Colorado Avalanche and Dallas Stars, Game 7 featured a goal that highlighted how even modern officiating tools can eliminate all disputes. With Colorado trailing in the series and fighting to stay alive, a crucial offside review will become one of the most talked about moments of that playoff year. Early in the second period, with Dallas leading 2-1, Avalanche forward Mikko Rantanen carried the puck into the offensive zone before setting up a scoring chance. Moments later, the puck ended up on Vladislav Nemesnikov's stick, and he fired it past Stars goaltender Anton Khudobin to apparently tie the game. Dallas interim head coach Rick Bowness immediately challenged the play, claiming Rantanen had entered the zone offside. The review process took several minutes as officials studied the replays from multiple angles. The controversy centered not just on whether Rantanen was offside, but on the timing of the zone entry relative to when the puck fully crossed the blue line, a matter of millimeters and milliseconds. Eventually, the officials upheld the goal, determining there was insufficient evidence to overturn the on-ice call. The decision infuriated the Stars bench, with players and coaches arguing that freeze-frame evidence clearly showed an offside had occurred. The goal stood, however, shifting momentum to Colorado temporarily, while Dallas would ultimately prevail in the game and series, advancing to the conference finals and eventually the Stanley Cup final. The disputed call highlighted the ongoing challenges with offside reviews. Despite high-definition cameras and slow-motion replay capabilities, the human element of judgment still created room for controversy. The incident led to renewed debates about the precision of offside reviews and whether the spirit of the rule was being lost in frame-by-frame analysis of plays that happen at lightning speed on the ice. Number 3. Boston Bruins too many men penalty, 1979. The 1979 Stanley Cup semifinals between the Boston Bruins and Montreal Canadiens produced a moment of controversy that, while not technically a disputed goal, directly led to one of the most famous goals in playoff history. The Bruins, coached by the fiery Don Cherry, were leading the defending champion Canadiens 4-3 late in the third period of Game 7 at the Montreal Forum. With just over 2 minutes remaining, Boston appeared poised to upset their arch-rivals and advance to the Stanley Cup final. Then came a moment of confusion that would live in hockey infamy. During a line change, the Bruins inadvertently put too many men on the ice. In the chaos of the moment, neither the players nor Coach Cherry realized a mistake until it was too late. The Montreal crowd erupted as the referee's arm went up, signaling the penalty. The Canadiens, desperate for an equalizer, were handed a power play opportunity in the final minutes of this decisive game. Montreal coach Scotty Bowman sent out his top unit, featuring Guy Lafleur, who blasted a slap shot past Bruins goaltender Gillis Gilbert to tie the game with just 74 seconds remaining in regulation. With momentum completely shifted, the Canadiens went on to win in overtime on a goal by Yvon Lambert, completing their comeback and crushing Boston's championship dreams. The controversial too-many-men penalty became one of the most infamous moments in Bruins history and a turning point in Don Cherry's coaching career. Cherry would later admit that the confusion stemmed from players changing on their own rather than waiting for his signal, but he nobly accepted responsibility for the devastating mistake. For Montreal, the penalty and subsequent comeback propelled them to another Stanley Cup final, where they defeated the New York Rangers to claim their fourth consecutive championship. The incident stands as a reminder that playoff controversies can emerge not just from disputed goals, but from pivotal penalties that dramatically alter the course of hockey history. Number 2, Daniel Alfredson's intent to blow goal 2007. The 2007 Eastern Conference Finals between the Ottawa Senators and Buffalo Sabres featured a controversial goal that highlighted the subjective nature of hockey officiating. Game 5 of the series, with Ottawa leading 3-1 and looking to clinch their first trip to the Stanley Cup final in modern franchise history, became the setting for one of the most debated officiating decisions of the era. The incident centered around Senators captain Daniel Alfredson and a rule interpretation that would become infamous among hockey fans. Midway through the second period with the score tied, Sabres goaltender Ryan Miller appeared to cover the puck after making a save. As players from both teams gathered around the crease, referee Dan O'Halloran moved toward the net, seemingly preparing to blow his whistle to stop play. In that moment of hesitation, Alfredson poked the puck loose from under Miller's glove and into the net. The red light came on, and the Senators celebrated what they believed was the go-ahead goal. Buffalo players immediately protested, pointing out that the referee was about to blow the play dead. After a brief conference, O'Halloran disallowed the goal, citing the controversial intent to blow rule. This rule states that play is considered stopped not when the whistle actually sounds, but when the referee decides in his mind to stop play. The Senators and their fans were outraged, arguing that the puck was loose and fair game until the whistle actually blew. The controversy highlighted the subjective nature of the intent to blow rule, which relies entirely on a referee's internal decision-making process rather than observable action. Despite the disputed call, Ottawa would go on to win the game and series, advancing to face the Anaheim Ducks in the Stanley Cup final. The incident nevertheless sparked league-wide debate about the rule and led to discussions about potential changes to make officiating more objective. Years later, the intent to blow rule remains one of the most criticized in hockey, with the Alfredson disallowed goal standing as its most high-profile application in playoff history. Number 1. Bobby Nystrom's offside goal, 1980. The 1980 Stanley Cup final between the New York Islanders and Philadelphia Flyers culminated in a controversial goal that would launch one of hockey's greatest dynasties. The Islanders, seeking their first championship in franchise history, were tied with the Flyers in overtime of Game 6 at Nassau Coliseum. What happened next would become both the foundation of Islanders lore and a source of lasting bitterness for the Flyers and their fans. At 7-11 of overtime, Islanders forward Lauren Henning cleared the puck out of the defensive zone toward center ice where teammate Butch Goring collected it. Goring carried the puck toward the Flyers' blue line, with linemate Clark Gillies entering the zone ahead of him. Replays would later suggest that both Gillies and another Islander, John Tonelli, had crossed into the offensive zone before the puck, constituting an offside violation. No whistle came, however, and play continued. Moments later, Tonelli delivered a perfect pass to Bobby Nystrom, who redirected the puck past Flyers goaltender Pete Peters, setting off a wild celebration as the Islanders claimed their first Stanley Cup. Amid the chaos, Flyers players protested frantically to the officials about the missed offside call, but the goal stood as fans stormed the ice in celebration. This controversial goal marked the beginning of the Islanders' dynasty, as they would go on to win 4 consecutive Stanley Cups from 1980 to 1983. For the Flyers, who had reached the final final after their record 35-game unbeaten streak that season. The missed offside call represented a devastating conclusion to their championship hopes. The controversy took on even greater historical significance, as the goal not only decided the 1980 championship, but helped establish the Islanders as one of hockey's most dominant teams. In the decades since, the disputed Nystrom goal has been analyzed countless times, with modern technology confirming what Flyers fans claimed all along: the play was offside. Yet, like many entries on this list, it stands as a reminder that human error in officiating can have profound effects on the legacy of players, teams, and the NHL itself. Throughout NHL playoff history, controversial goals have shaped championships, altered careers, and created lasting debates among hockey fans. Despite advances in technology, including high-definition cameras, multi-angle replays, and video review systems, the human element of hockey ensures that controversy remains an inevitable part of the game. From Brett Hull's foot in the crease to Bobby Nystrom's disputed offside, these moments remind us that split-second decisions and rule interpretations can have consequences that echo through hockey history. What makes these controversies so compelling is not just the technical questions of whether a call was correct, but the dramatic stakes involved. These weren't regular season games in December. They were pivotal playoff moments where Stanley Cups hung in a balance. For every team that benefited from a controversial call, another saw their championship dreams potentially slip away due to human error or rule ambiguity. The Flames still wonder if they were robbed of the 2004 Cup, while Maple Leafs fans can't help but imagine how differently things might have gone if Gretzky had been penalized for his high stick in 1993. Modern hockey has attempted to address these issues with expanded video review, coaches' challenges, and clearer rule definitions. Yet even with these improvements, controversy persists as an integral part of the game's narrative. Perhaps that's fitting for a sport as fast-paced and physical as hockey, where the boundary between brilliant play and rule violation can be impossibly thin. These 10 controversial goals stand as reminders of hockey's unpredictable nature, the immense pressure of playoff competition, and the fine margins that separate championship glory from heartbreaking defeat. As technology continues to evolve and rules are refined, new controversial moments will inevitably emerge to join this infamous list, ensuring that passionate debates among hockey fans will continue for generations to come.